Okay, but now let's go back to our nav header main and finish that. So we prepared the linear layout structure, but in there we now have those two image views, right? So the circle image view, which we get from our third-party library that we have implemented. So now we can assign a width, and here we are just going to use 80 density pixels. Of course, we can use a dimension for that. So let's go ahead to our resources and export all of the values that we have here in the dimensions file. So I prepared this, of course, already. And it's going to be the ones that you see here. So height of nav main menu or navigation menu, nav image size, nav content margin start end, nav content margin top, bottom, then the username text size, the circular border width, and then the nav divider height. So if you look very carefully, you will see that there is a little divider here, which is just one line. And we define the height as being just 0.5 density pixels. And while we are adding values, so let's do the same thing with strings. So we will need two more strings here. One of them is going to be the nav my profile. So it's just going to say my profile, and then nav sign out, which is going to be the sign out. So it's just those two texts that we have here so that we can make them global, or that we have multiple languages later on. We could have multiple languages where we use different terms for those two things, right? Okay, so that is that. Now we can go back to our header main, and now we can use all of those dimensions instead. So the height of the circle image view will be the nav image size. The same for the width, so both will be the nav image size here. Then we are going to define the margin start as being nav content margin start. Actually, start end. And then margin end will be the same. So that's why it's called like that. So margin end will be nav margin start end. Okay, so in both cases we have the same margin. Then we can define a border color, which I'm going to do here. So civ border color will be Android color /white, and then the width, which will be our nav image size. Actually, it's not the size, it's the image nav image circular border width. So this is the border width, and then the content description will be our string, and here it's image content description. And finally, the source will be our IC, and this is one that we need to create still. So it's going to be called IC user placeholder. So we will need to add a drawable, which will be the user placeholder, which is just this little icon that you can see here with the head. All right, and underneath we want to have the text view. So this is our circular image view, and underneath we just have a basic view and an image view. So first an image view and then a view. Let me show you those two things. So the text view will have the ID username, it will have a width of rep content, height as well, then a little margin towards multiple directions, the text color will be white, and the text size will be nav username text size, which we prepared in the dimensions, right? So nav username text size. Okay, and the tools text will be username. So let's create the namespace declaration so that it's just gonna say username here. Of course, it doesn't display anything because we still don't have a background here, neither do we have an IC user placeholder here. Before we add those, let's do one last thing, which will be the last preparation pretty much, and then we can add all of the different images and backgrounds that we're still missing, and then we should be able to test it. So let's go over to our menu, and we have this activity main drawer, right, which was this menu. Now I want to have a menu group, so I want to have two menu items, so my profile and sign out. So let's add those two. Let's add a group which will be it's going to have checkable behavior single, so only one can be active at the time. And then I want to have two items in there. One item will have the ID nav my profile. So if we click on that, we want to do something, and then it should have an icon. So we will need to create an icon, which will be in the drawable folder. So here, add drawable, and I'm just going to call this one IC nav iUser, and then we have a title, which will be a string, and for now it will just be the app name. And later on, or actually my profile, I think it should be something like nav underscore my profile. Yeah, that was the one that we prepared. So that's going to be item number 1. And then we have another item. So item number 2, and that's the sign out icon. So this one here, right? We have my profile, and then we have sign out. And sign out already does something. So that's what we're going to implement in the next video. But for now, let's just add Android ID equals ID, and this one will be nav sign out. Then it's going to have an icon, and here I'm going to use IC or drawables and IC nav sign out, and the title will be sign out. So nav sign out. Okay, so now let's create those drawables. Therefore, I need to log in again to show you how the icons will look like. So let's open this up. We can see it's this shutdown icon, and then it's this profile icon. So let's add those two. So new, and here vector asset. And then you can search for person. So here I'm just going to use this person here. And let's see, is it that one? Well, it's not exactly that one, but it's very similar, right? So you can just select an icon that you prefer. It doesn't have to be specifically the one that I'm using. Maybe it's this one, like this assignment indicator. So let's use this one. And then let's give it a different name. So it was IC nav user. So IC nav user. And let's also see, was it in dark? Well, it was, yes, I think it was like this. All right, IC nav user. And let's go next and finish. Then this one disappears, this error. Now nav sign out, same thing. File, new, vector asset. So you open a clip art, and then here we can search for power settings new. So this one is going to be fine for us, and I'm just going to rename it to nav sign out. So IC nav sign out. All right, and let's see if it's in dark. Yes, it is. So let's go ahead and finish it. Okay, so now we have those two icons, and we're only missing a few minor things. So for example, here we are still missing the image as well as in the circle image. So this IC user placeholder. And at this point, I would like you to download the project. So the version for this project, and then drag in all of the drawables. Or you can of course use your own images if you want to. So just drawable HDPI up to drawable XX, the HDPI, just put those in here and skip the files that are already prepared. So just copy the ones from the version 11 and put them inside of the project. At this time, our images should be done, or should be working. All of them should be found, and at this moment we should be able to test our application. You can see this is how it's going to look username. So this is our header main, even though it doesn't look as good as I would like it to be. So let's add some more settings to the linear layout here, because I think we don't have a fitting height here. So the height that I want to use is the height of nav main. So here, height of nav main. So that's the one that we had in the dimensions. So here, height of nav main, which is 200 density pixels. And then let's look at the design now. And you can see it looks a lot better. This looks a lot more like what I want to have. Okay, so then, by the way, this little view here is only creating a little divider. Okay, so it just has a width of match parent. It has a color accent color. And then it has the height of our divider height. So it's just a little line here, super thin line. Okay, so it's just a divider. But now you know how to create dividers. Just create a little view with the height that you need. At this time, we can then finally test the application. So let's sign in, or we should be signed in automatically. You can see we have 2 bars now, so this is not perfect yet, but this is something we will need to fix in the code later on. But what you can also see is we have this drawer here that we can drag in. We don't have an icon here yet that we could use, but we have this drawer. Okay. Also, this projet menage here at the top, it's something that we potentially can fix from here. So we can add the portrait mode and no action bar to our main activity settings. So here, let's do that here in the main activity settings, and let's test it again just to see whether this is gonna make the difference. And there we are. So now we don't have 2 action bars because we created one via code and the other one was there by default. Now this is of course not so easy to drag out, but you can see we have my profile and we have the sign out. So those 2 icons are here. The text doesn't appear yet, so that's something that we need to look at. And that is of course because we have not assigned a text here. So we only have it in the tools, but we haven't assigned a text directly here. But that is fine because we're going to do that in the code later on. There's one last thing that I would like to still do, and that is to add the activity main, actually, or the content main, because you can see everything is in there, but the content main is not there. We don't have this hello world text, which is our content main, or main content XML, this one here. It's never appearing. So let's look at the structure. I think this is good review. So the thing is, we have the activity main. Okay, in the activity main, we have a drawer layout, then we have a navigation view inside of it. But in between, we have this include statement where we say include the app bar main. So let's look at app bar main. Here we have an app bar layout and a toolbar. But then what is missing here is just underneath the app bar layout, our include, so that we have the layout, which is going to be our add layout content main. Or here, main content. Okay, so we were missing this one. Now if we test this again, now we will also include our main content, which is in turn this one here, where we have the text view, which is currently just this hello world text. But having all of those elements now being combined and connected to each other, we create this user interface that we have here where everything is coming together. Okay, so here we have hello world. Then we have the app bar at the top. Then we have our drawer here, which consists of 2 elements. So here the nav bar top and then the nav bar bottom, which is our menu pretty much. So we have the nav bar, nav header main, which is this part here. And then our menu, which is our activity main drawer, which is this part with the my profile and sign out. Okay, so I think this is enough for this video. See you in the next one, where we're going to, of course, implement the hamburger and a bunch more functionality. So see you there.